majority of millennials care about getting onto the property ladder, career advice, but at the same time, they prefer the importance of their social life. So when you look at our approach, it's very much taking a lifestyle approach to money management.
Nick, Eve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
MoneyMedics,
Yep.
or MoneyMedics UK is what I've been calling it, but it's just MoneyMedics.
That's correct, yep.
Okay, you guys have started, I'm going to say with an Instagram page where you were giving advice on, I first saw it about the wedding. Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
I see you've also given advice on other things as well.
Yep.
Well, will you tell me where the whole idea for this started?
I guess just so we're covering our backs, it's more of financial guidance.
Tips and tricks that we've used,
Yeah, because
So all speaking from experience.
yes, because I think as the industry is quite heavily regulated, so I think we're regulated under giving financial guidance as opposed to advice on products.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I think the idea came from us like interviewing friends and family in terms of how they feel financial services was approached towards them in general, in terms of like millennials particularly. And then we found that
Is that the target audience that you, millennials, yeah?
Specifically millennials, and we found that a majority of millennials care about getting onto the property ladder, career advice, but at the same time they prefer the importance of their social life. So when you look at our approach, it's very much taking a lifestyle approach to money management, and we found the response has been phenomenal so far. I think going a step further is that, I'm sure as you're aware, with open banking, there's lots of fintechs coming into the market on an ongoing basis, but there's a low amount of awareness of some of these solutions out there. So we've formed a hub, or we're currently migrating from not just being on Instagram and YouTube, but actually creating tech-enabled services with some of these brands offline.
When I first bought my home a few years ago, I just found it really hard to find information. I think everything was really jargon heavy and quite hard to understand. It wasn't really aimed
Was
at
this on when you, where to get a mortgage?
Yeah, how to get a mortgage, how to save up for a mortgage, how much your income takes part in the mortgage application process. I found everything quite jargon heavy and not really aimed at millennials or people around our age. And in fact, a lot of the information was almost saying millennials can't get mortgages, it's too expensive, like don't bother, just forget about it. So it was so that's part of the inspiration and why we wanted to create this, to just put more information out there to a wider audience as well.
It has been tricky though. Was it tricky for you to get a mortgage at the time? Well, other than the information you were trying to find.
Well, because I was originally based in London, I had to find a way to move out. So I moved to Bristol, and that's when I bought my first flat in Bristol. So it wasn't as straightforward as it would have been back in like 1999, where people could get mortgages in London for £200,000 on an 18k salary. You can't do that anymore. But
is it 3.5 times your salary here?
4.5.
4.5 here. Okay, so it's gone up a little bit. Well, I'm only comparing it to Ireland, which I know obviously.
Yeah.
Ireland was 3.5 times your salary. I think it still is. So it's 4.5 here. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
average. Sometimes some mortgage advisors recommend a lower amount, but yeah. So you just kind of have to like find out little hints and tricks on how to get to the best places, or how to, for example, increase your salary if you need to do that in order for you to be able to buy a house.
So what type of response have you been getting? Because you're building a following now. I think it's 7,500 followers on Instagram.
Yes, so we've only been on there for a year now, and I think the response has been phenomenal. I think not just from a consumer perspective, but also from a business perspective, in terms of the fintechs that are taking interest in terms of this is how you engage an audience.
Yeah.
And it's been phenomenal in terms of, as I said, we don't give financial advice. It's very much guidance.
Yeah.
And I think
tips and tricks. And
tips and tricks. And I think over time, where we're not just using our personal use cases, by working with some of these fintechs, actually creating an offering to actually scale what we've done, so you can actually replicate that.
I see that you've broken it down between different things. Like you guys are getting married soon.
That's correct.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Right? But it's not till what? Till February next year?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So plenty of time in the planning. You're going to disagree. You're probably there going, oh, it's a bit too much. But you're having quite a big wedding, I should say, actually. 250?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You said that's small. I
Well-
consider that massive.
It's more of a, there's a traditional aspect to it as well. So because we both come from really big families, we have to, 250 is actually scaling it down. And a lot of our friends as well.
You have to invite everyone.
You do have
Yeah.
to invite everyone, and you do have to invite a lot of family members as well. So for us, having a wedding that's as small that we would say, or as big, as we want it to be, but still under the national average that people spend on weddings, which is our aim.
Which at the moment is like £31,000 or yeah.
Is the average people
That's the national average at the moment for weddings. Yeah.
But we're aiming a lot significantly lower than that. So yeah, for us to be able to have a wedding that we want, still have it very nice, relatively glamorous, but within a reasonable budget as well, where we don't go into debt for it, where we're not having to borrow money, etc. That's another thing that people are really interested in, people have been responding to so far.
What is the biggest response? Because I saw that you were also giving advice on dates, or not advice, sorry, guidance. I keep saying advice, I'm thinking of all the financial advice. You were giving guidance on dating, right? And I saw that got the most views on YouTube anyway, right? What has been something that has stuck out in your guys' minds that you've gone, oh my God, I didn't even think people were going to be needing advice or guidance on say, mortgages or dating? Did you expect it to be that big on dating?
I don't know actually, because we found that when it comes to property, that got a very, very big response.
Okay. To get on the property ladder, is it?
Yeah, getting on the property ladder got a very big response. We were reached, was it Daily Mail, The Sun contacted us, quite a few other newspaper articles contacted us about that as well. So it depends, because our target audience is, like we said, millennials. They range from like early 20s to like mid 30s.
Yeah, mid to late
so
30s.
it's quite it's quite a wide variety of people, and people in completely different stages of their lives.
Yeah.
Early 20s, you're thinking of like university or your first job, starting your career. And mid 30s, you're thinking like starting a family or moving to your next home, etc. So I think it really depends.
To be honest, I'm not surprised, because as we mentioned before, it's about taking a lifestyle approach, and I think that's what's missing in the offering of some of what the big players or fintechs are trying to offer, in terms of if you delve down in terms of just giving budgeting, current accounts, what is it about their lifestyle? So that's the approach we always take. So in terms of millennials like to go out, avocado and toast or dating. So how can you find innovative, effective ways to allow them to enjoy those things, but still allow them to pay into their pension, to invest, or to figure out a long-term strategic plan to get onto the property ladder? If you have all those ingredients, millennials are going to be pretty engaged.
Yeah,
that's what we found has been quite interesting.
So what's the plan for this? Are you both working full-time on this, or do you still have jobs?
I'm a strategy consultant by day, working in investment banks. Eve's the pharmacist.
Okay. Is the plan to move fully onto this, or what's going to happen?
I think I'm gonna say yes and no, because I don't know. I think the focus is that we're trying to build something that's scalable. That whereby we can still do other things, but at the same time, if the demand is so much, is something to consider in terms of going full time on this.
Have you looked down the route of how you can monetize it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So it's essentially looking at the way some of the banks, in terms of some of the fintechs, are not necessarily profitable at this particular point in time because they're a freemium based model, but in terms of focusing more of the business to business lens. So actually working with those fintechs to create an offering for the consumer, and your fee is based on that partner referral on reaching your user base. So there's different things we're working on or in discussions with in terms of monetizing it and scaling it.
And how do you decide what tips and guidance you're going to give? Like, how do you decide, right, this week or this month we'll talk about mortgages or dating or getting married and tips on that. How do you decide what you're gonna talk about?
Well, there was an article on the FT not too long ago, and that's what we based our topics on. And it was basically a list of things, topics that mainly millennials? Millennials felt like they didn't know much about or enough about, and that included things like getting on the property ladder, pensions, investments, credit, how to make large purchases. So we've started off based on that, but it's just been evolving because, like you said, we've had a lot of responses from fintechs recently as well. So we have been spending some time developing and working with our network in fintech. So it really depends.
Yeah, and I think it's like what happens is like, as in terms of like, I've learned quite a few wealth management methodologies in terms of the full circle of how you onboard a client or you take a client through, and it's applying that to our business and our approach in terms of when you onboard a client, in terms of understanding their liabilities and assets, and understanding if you're going to grow your wealth, the importance of credit, and then taking that approach and then delayering, and then always understanding that, okay, there's mass information, there's so much information out there on credit scoring, but then how do you apply a lifestyle filter? And that's how we apply our own 2 cents and thoughts and get engagement along those lines.
You must have at least one person that sticks out in your mind that has reached out to you guys thanking you on the tips that you've given them. Is there anyone in particular, and what was it? Or is there? There's so many.
Actually, I think it was a particular lady who was quite interested in saving for a child. And she was quite shocked when I told her you can open up a pension for a child, or I gave her the figures that if you opened up a GSIB for your child, it was 5% per annum growth, and that's quite modest. By the time that child is 18, they could be sitting on £137,000 based on compound growth, and she was astounded. And I said that, look at it this way, as much as there's lots of newspaper articles about tuition fees being 9,000, about millennials being faced with mortgages and pensions, if you make the decision now, your child won't face that issue. And I think she was so shocked when I said that.
Yeah. I saw something actually there, I can't remember fully, but it was all about how to save £1 million, right? And it showed the different amounts that you needed to save per month, depending on your age. Right, so if you were 10, obviously saving £1 million by the time you're 60, and the amount that you had to put aside was very, very little per week. But then again, where's a 10-year-old going to get money, right? So when you turned 18, it adds up. But I always kind of tell this one as well, where I started a savings account on the side. It was only 150 a month that I was putting in, and of course everyone goes 150 a month. It's not going to make anyone rich, but I was putting it into gold. And as I was putting it in, 5 years later, I'd gotten so used to it just going in that when you look at it now, you're, oh my God, it's gone up, especially with something that can go up as well. Compound interest is your friend, you know. So guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about what you guys are doing?
So, of course, follow us on Instagram at MoneyMedics. Of course, add us on LinkedIn as well. And also subscribe to our YouTube page.
Which is what? MoneyMedics or MoneyMedics UK?
MoneyMedics, just
MoneyMedics.
MoneyMedics. Yeah. And of course, I think, just watch out with the pending update we have with potential fintech.
What's the next one? Do we know what the next one is that's going out? Or is it a surprise?
You'll have to find out.
Good answer, good answer. Eve, Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.